in out of Watauga County, and have 2 kiddos both with disabilities. So,
Okay. Opal Blair. Joanne Caratelli.
Oh, that's me. I'm just getting logged in just now. I am a public school teacher, a regular ed teacher for 25 years, but I'm also the parent to a adult child with a disability. He is 20 and just graduated from high school as a gen ed student, and I just ran in the door from dropping him off at his full-time job. So here I am. I'm also on the, yeah, okay, that's me. Sorry.
Glad you could be here. Peyton Davis. That's me. Good morning. Good morning. Megan Wilson. That's me. Good morning. Abby Childers. She's on her way, stuck in traffic, so we'll welcome her when she gets here. Tamika Williams Burchett. Kristen Hodges. Erin Kreitz.
I'm here.
Good morning. Tiffany Farrell. Pamela Day.
Here.
Good morning. Pamela Watkins.
Here, good morning.
Good morning. Christy Grant.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Kelly Kelly. Christy Hutchinson.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Here, present. Good morning.
Amy Combs.
I'm stepping in for Amy today.
Hey.
It's me, Sonover.
Okay. And Megan Parsons. Matthew Potter.
Present. Present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Linda McDonough. Chris Wall. Senator Ted Alexander. Elizabeth DiBiase. Representative Larry Strickland. Chris Wall. Kimmery Sanders. Adam Johnson. Kenya Bea.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can. Welcome.
Good morning. This is Kenya Bia. I wanted to point out that Adam Johnson is no longer with Juvenile Justice Education Services, so you can remove his name. And I also have with me this morning Althea Herbig. She's new to Juvenile Justice. She'll also be part of the meetings along with me.
Thank you, Kenya. Lisa
Thank
Phillips.
Good morning, Lisa Phillips, State Coordinator for the North Carolina Homeless Education Program with the Department of Public Instruction. I'm very stuffy and have a cold, so please forgive me. I do have on the call with me today Tamika Dawkins, who's our program specialist for special populations. She's my alternate, for our meetings. And with us today is our new state coordinator for foster care, Lisa Von Dolan. She's also in the same division as me. So she just joined us about a month ago. So we now have that seat filled again.
Can she say that name one more time?
I'll send it to you. How about that?
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. And I don't think we have a quorum yet.
And we have another board member that just arrived, and I'm gonna let her have a minute to get her seat, and then she can introduce herself. While she's getting settled, I'm gonna introduce DPI staff. So I'm Carol Ann Hudgens. I'm the Senior Director for the Office of Exceptional Children. And to my right,
Lee Mobley. I'm the new section chief for policy monitoring and audit.
and then we have Polly Lilly, who is our dispute resolution consultant, and Danielle Sanders, who is our support staff. So we are happy to be here to support the council today. And now for our council member who's just joined us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Opal Blair. I'm from Guilford County.
So
Senior
glad you could
Representative.
be here.
Thank you.
Okay, if that's everybody, looks like, and we do have enough to call quorum, so we will go ahead, review and approve the agenda. So if everybody can look at
Make a
the
motion. Sorry, Diane. I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Diane, do we need to count super quick and just make sure we have a quorum?
I think I was counting while you were Xing in, so I think we have 14, if I counted right, but I may have.
And I added Abby in there, but she's on her way in.
We're good.
We're good? Okay.
We have 14
Great.
without counting.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so we're good. So we had approved the agenda. Christy, did you?
Yes, I did. I made the motion to approve the agenda as written.
Okay. And does anybody oppose it then as written? We'll do it the easy way. Anybody opposes? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, move on then. Carol Ann, if you can show, because we did not have quorum last time, we need to approve 2 sets of previous meetings, set from March and from June. So if you wouldn't mind, whoever's controlling, put the summary of action up for March, so we can approve those first. And if you are in the doc, you can of course go in and look at it, because you may be able to see it a little better if you go in on your own computer for the ones that are online.
Do we want to go ahead and act on the motion of approving the agenda that Christy made?
Oh, sorry.
Just
Yes, sorry. I got ahead up now. Yeah, so okay, so all in favor of approving them, this Christy had, okay, ones online, yeah, if you're opposed, let us know. For the ones in the room, I'll let you go ahead and approve.
All right. I'm just gonna-
Raising your hand, I guess, will be the easiest one. Christy can keep up with who's.
Yep. I'm going to use our attendance.
Okay. Getting thumbs up online, so I think we're good. I don't think anybody's opposing.
Thank you, ma'am.
But, yeah. Sorry, we've had a little shift, so I apologize, everybody. It may be a little off today, trying to make sure we get done, because of course having the shift of personnel. We'll figure it out, get through it. And once she gets that all marked, then we'll go back. Business stand. Sorry about that. Got ahead of everybody.
I feel like all marked up. If you want to go ahead and do the approve to
Yeah, okay.
March minutes.
So for the approval of the March minutes, I guess we'll need a first, a second on that one technically before we go into approving. So
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as well.
Okay, so that
Matt Potter.
first, Matt, and then do we have a second? Approve the
Lisa
marching in.
Phillips. I'll second. Lisa Phillips.
Lisa for second. Okay, and so let's do this here so that she can just click it. If anybody opposes, speak up. Other than that, we'll check everybody approves, just to make it a little easier for her to mark up this. So is anybody approving the March minutes? Online, I'm not seeing anything, so we're good there.
All good.
Okay,
Moving on to.
so now we'll move to the June. So we'll need a first and second approving the June minutes.
I'll motion approval.
Matt for first, then we need a second.
Lisa Phillips. I'll second.
Okay. You're gonna make it easier or just say,
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks for being my tag team partner on that, Lisa.
You got it.
And we'll do the same thing. If anybody opposes, speak up, but otherwise, sorry, that phone stopped. Otherwise, actually just, we'll mark it as approved unless somebody speaks up on opposal.
Good.
Okay. I think we're good. And so, Carol Ann, are you going to address about Alexa? Do you want me to handle that? Because really, we probably need to explain why we're having a little switch over here.
Yes, I'll be happy to. So Alexis Utz has been our parent liaison for the last couple of years, and she has been our main support for the council. And she recently decided to go back to the classroom. And while we are very sad to see her leave us here at the department, we are excited for her returning to the classroom. We know that the students need her, and that there are lots of vacancies across the state, and we were gifted with her time for several years, and we know that she's doing good things in the classroom now. So we are looking forward to filling that position. It is our intention to continue having that position as part of our team, and so we hope to post for that position very soon so that we can continue to have that as an important part of our office and in support of the council. So as Diane mentioned, we are missing Alexis, and thank you for your patience with us. Not only is it an in-person meeting this time around, but it's our first without Alexis. So we're missing her today.
Okay. And so that actually brings us to you starting, Caroline, and doing your agency update.
Yes, and I'm just stopping sharing my screen until I can queue up the next presentation. And just checking to see if you can see my screen, Diane, at home.
I can.
Okay. All right, so I have a few things to share with you in terms of updates and in response to your question about our determination letter. So our state performance plan, recently North Carolina received its determination in June of 23, which was just a couple months ago. And I want to explain a little bit about the cycle of data collection. You'll notice up at the top that this data is for 21-22 school year. And so our school years, the way we count it for federal reporting, begins July 1 through June 30th. And we count or collect data on a variety of indicators. We collect data around student performance and participation in state mandated assessments. We have compliance indicators in terms of placing students within the 90-day timeline, transition of children from Part C to B, which is moving from the infant toddler program into the Part B preschool program, and doing that in a timely fashion. So we have a combination of what we call outcome and compliance indicators. And there are 17 of them in total, and 14 of them are used or collected from our public school units. And part of our data includes our dispute resolution data, and because disputes can occur on the last day of the reporting cycle, we do have to extend that 60-day period of that school year into the end of September, October, just to make sure that we close all the business in the school year. So what that means is that October is a big data collection month for us in the state. And so all of those indicators that we are looking at from the data collection year are collected in October. Then what happens is that we prepare that information and we submit it in February to the federal government. And so for the 21-22 school year, that information was collected in October of 22, and then February of 23 is when we submitted our performance report to the federal government, and June is when we received our report about our determination from the Office of Special Education Programs. And so there is a little bit of a lag in the cycle. And what I'll point out to you is that this year, if you'll remember our COVID timeline, this is the first school year in which blended virtual in-person was no longer an option. The governor we had moved through that, transition ABC plan. We were now full-time in-person for 21-22. And so it's still funny that we have to go back and look at how the COVID has impacted us in our timeline of data collection. So our determination indicated that North Carolina needs assistance, and to put it into a national perspective, North Carolina was one of 35 states who also met this designation. And so the Office of Special Education Program can, of course, do several things with this designation. They can prescribe particular technical assistance that the state has to engage in. They can put conditions on our federal grant statewide, and other things as the department deems appropriate. For North Carolina, the Office of Special Education Program only highly recommended that North Carolina access their federally funded technical assistance centers in the areas in which we did not meet our targets. And so there were no conditions placed on our grant. We don't have to do a particular program or do a particular reporting mechanism. Just when we report on our APR in February that is coming up, we have to report how we have accessed those federal technical assistance center and what we did as a result of that. What I can share with the council at large is that we have had a long and healthy relationship with multiple technical assistance centers. While I know them all by alphabet soup, I'll just kind of give you a little bit of a generic descriptor of them, because decoding all that alphabet might tax my abilities here this morning. But so there is one on transition, that we have staff involved in transition, post-secondary transition. We have one where our leadership team is involved in general supervision, which is systemic improvement statewide, where we look at how we invest our fiscal resources in our areas of need. So we match our fiscal with our programming needs. So we are involved with our state technical assistance center in that arena. Also, dispute resolution, Cadre is the name of it. We have a partnership with Cadre in looking at dispute resolution trends, how we are looking at our processes and procedures, reflective thought partners with that process. We have various and sundry other technical assistance centers that staff are involved with. We bring that back to the state and we look at our SPP and APR, which is the State Performance Plan and Annual Performance Report. And then what we engage in with our public school units is looking at their individual annual performance reports. And we look at the indicators alongside them as thought partners for which indicators that they may not be meeting locally, and start talking about whether or not the combination of those indicators reflect some systemic priorities that then they might want to work on locally. And so I'll talk a little bit more how we are trying to organize that a little bit differently going forward into the next year. We are getting ready to collect data. Again, October is knocking on the door. It's going too fast. So October is coming quickly, and that data will be collected for 22-23. So the activities that we've already put in place, we're hoping to see how those data are improving results for children. And last week at the state board meeting, I shared some of the same information. And it was also the same day where our accountability information for 22-23 was released to the public. And that is a good thing because our indicators for students with disabilities come from that accountability data for the performance on statewide assessments. And in general, what accountability shared with us all is that the state as a whole, including our subgroups, which would include students with disabilities, is starting to trend upward again to what we were seeing for growth and performance prior to COVID. So we are looking forward to getting a little bit deeper in those data as well for students with disabilities to see if we are experiencing some of those same trends, and if not, where do we need to increase our efforts. And so one of the areas that we had as a priority area of support based on 21-22 data, you'll see on the slide here, was just the actual participation in state mandated assessments. And that is one area in which students with disabilities, the measurement is just simply attending school and participating in a state mandated assessment. It doesn't measure how well you're doing on it. It's just that you're participating in state mandated assessments. And the state as a whole did not meet the target on that. That was also coincidentally a challenge for general ed for the same time period. And so what I was happy to hear last week during our accountability presentation was that participation in state mandated assessment statewide has gotten much better. In fact, it's back up to 95%. So that should be translating to students with disabilities as well. So I think that that is good information that we are hoping will improve our results and our determination perhaps for this upcoming year. So based on our determination and based on how we did or did not meet targets, those areas that we recognize our public school units continue to need support on is the performance of students with disabilities on statewide assessments. That is comparable to students at large needing support on statewide mandated assessments. The suspension and expulsion of students with disabilities, looking at preschool outcomes and how our young children are doing when they're in preschool on those objectives. Our child fund and our early childhood transition, I mentioned that a little bit once I first started, and secondary transition and post-school outcomes. And so those are some priority areas that we will continue to focus on. If you notice with the 21-22 school year, and you think about preschool, for example, one of the things that we had during the pandemic, a lot of our young children did not participate in the infant toddler program, the early intervention program, because some of those child care facilities that hosted those programs had health and safety measures that either made participation a little prohibitive, or families were being super cautious because those young children could not have vaccinations, we didn't know how they were going to impact our young children. And so the early intervention that some of our young children may have needed, they may not have experienced. And so when they hit preschool, their outcomes may not have been as strong as we would have anticipated. And so I show that as an example because it's one of those underlying things that it's hard to realize the far-reaching impact that COVID has and will continue to have for a bit on groups of students throughout their educational history. Some of our concerns with our early childhood transition and child fund are similar to those in terms of with different experiences about attending school and being able to be in person or being sick during COVID and missing instruction. That brought in the question about whether children and their performance was the result of a disability or was the result of a lack of instruction that all children were experiencing. So in some places we had a high number of referrals that either led to identification of children with disabilities or did not lead to an identification because their experience was similar to other children in terms of just learning loss, and we have to rule that out in our identification of students. Then when we look at post-school outcomes, that is when we are surveying our students when they leave school, and it's around employment or post-secondary training or further education. And again, during this timeline, we know that those opportunities were impacted as well. So just a little bit of background information about some potential things that were impacting the data in this particular data set. What I wanted to share with you here is knowing that we have a number of priority areas and knowing that we've already intervened on the data set that we're about to collect on, we're now intervening ahead of time for the next data set that we're looking at. One of the things that we reflected upon, or one of the things that I prioritized when I had the opportunity to become the senior director of the department, is looking at all of the different things that we are requesting from the public school units and looking at the timing in which we requested them and when we provided the support to them. And working with the Office of Exceptional Children, we are a lot, and we recognize that. And it is a lot to keep up with because we all want to do a really good job for our students with disabilities. And so in reflecting about that, we also needed to make sure that we are communicating and providing as much support as possible with the least amount of interruptions as possible, because districts need to have time to be able to implement improvement strategies, be able to evaluate them and make change. And it's very difficult when we as thought partners and sometimes monitors and sometimes change agents ourselves are constantly throwing new variables into the mix. So for those things that we can control in terms of our communication loops, when we collect data, when we can require improvement based on the state performance plan and annual performance report, we made some decisions about how we're going to group that together. There are, of course, the variables of monitoring that has to occur on a cycle, and we also have state complaints and other things that enter into the mix. But for our routine business, we felt like it was really important to start curating that in just manageable pieces of information that is not only packaged with what we have to do, but the support that the department can offer to that. And so what came out of that is the OEC Activities Guide. And you heard me talk a little bit about the season of our work in terms of when we collect data for the SPP and APR being in October. Well, historically, we could collect that data at various times, and under general supervision from the Office of Special Education Programs, we had to live under a requirement that as soon as we identified non-compliance, we had to notify the districts. So even when we're collecting data for the SPP and APR, we had to notify them right away. So if we collected data for the SPP and APR, for example, June, July, August, October, we may be sending corrective action letters to the district every month based on that. Well, in July, the Office of Special Education Programs, for the first time in a very long time, reviewed their general supervision guidance. And they articulated that when we identify noncompliance, we have 90 days to notify the district. So what we elected to do is put all of our data collection activities in October so that we could bundle them for notification in January, so that all the corrective action could be packaged with the local determination in January, so that any corrective action, any district improvement planning at large could all occur in the spring with the naturally occurring improvement planning that occurs. Because one of the most important things we feel is that change to benefit children with disabilities can't occur in isolation. It has to occur systemically, and that is in conjunction with district improvement planning. So we need to jump on that cycle with a good data set available for planning. Also, if there were any requirements based on a local IDEA grant, those are prepared in the spring. And so districts would have this information together so that if they needed to invest their resources differently, they could do that based on the data that they have and any corrective action that they might receive as a result of the SPP and APR. And so, but we want to, that's the kind of the monitoring, the enforcement, general supervision part of it. But coupled with that, what kind of technical assistance and support do we offer? And so I'm just going to click on this just for a second, because what I'd also like to highlight for you is that our areas of concern are also correlated with the indicators that we're measured by on the SPP and APR. So what this guide does, for example, when we're looking at our upcoming conference, our fall conference, our opportunities are going to be focused on those indicators, and they're streamlined to be able to be correlated. So if a district knows that statewide performance, which is indicator 3, or indicator 11, which is child find, is an area that they need support in, then they can look at our agenda and see what sessions and what services and supports correlate with what they're struggling with locally, and determine if they want to send staff there to do a train the trainer model, or have local leadership there to have more information. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen so I can share another screen. And so trying to organize everything, all of our communication loops, what to expect, how we're going to communicate, the due dates for all of our work is curated here. This is what what's here on the left side of the screen. This is like the index. Our regional meetings, our objectives, what we're going to be covered there, all of it is related, and I'm hopeful is clearly connected to where we know our needs are by our SPP and APR. So this is an effort also, and it might be a little bit, I guess, not the most obvious thing you would think of to think of a retention strategy, but it's actually a retention strategy to keep our EC directors, because picking them off one by one with all these different activities throughout the year is challenging to keep our EC directors in the field and leading and ensuring programs are going. And we're having a lot of turnover. Just as we're having turnover with our EC teachers, our EC leaders are turning over as well. And so this was an attempt as well to get ourselves better organized to support them in doing their job so that we can keep them with us and that there are no surprises throughout the year. Another piece of this is that forward-facing, all of our professional learning for the year for children with various different disability areas, different meetings that we have is on a publicly facing professional development calendar. So we want to be transparent to the public as well about the services and support that we're offering for our service providers. And that calendar is current right now up to October 1 with all of our offerings. And then by October 1, we anticipate that the rest of the year will be posted. Again, that is another maybe further down on the list recruitment and retention effort, in that we are posting well in advance what our opportunities are to help people plan how they're going to use their resources and support their teachers throughout the year. So I'm going to take a breath there and see if there are any questions for me on that part before I segue into something else. Okay, a lot of information there, probably more than you bargained for, but I felt like it was really important because the council asked, what are we doing about the areas that we know can be strengthened in the field? And I thought it was really important that you hear from us about what we're trying to do to support recruitment and retention, but also strong programming. So the next thing I wanted to share with you is a little bit of information about our service-based funding model that we're proposing. This proposal is not new, but I'm not sure of the council's membership and its entry point into this information. So I wanted to make sure that I offered this because it's a topic that is being spoken about in various arenas this fall. So just kind of quickly, so I'll know how deep I need to go with it. This has been a work group, special area study, conversation with various thought partners for about 5 or 6 years, if not longer. And so does this at least ring a bell with anybody? If not, that's perfectly fine because it may not, depending on your entry point. But I do want to illustrate it's not new. It's not something brand new that we're just kind of like rolling out. There's been a lot of study based on a service-based funding model. We had an independent study done about 2 years ago. The legislature required us to do that. But the gist of this is that we want to make sure that our resources are sufficient to support the needs as they're represented through individual education programs. And so what we know is that our students with disabilities often require different amounts of frequency, intensity, and duration of special education services. And the more frequent and intense the services are, the more resources it is likely to take to support those students. And now that we have had the benefit of having ECATs in place now for a number of years, we are at a place where we can collect that data from ECATs around what the service delivery looks like for our students with disabilities in a more consistent, aggregate way for analysis. And so just kind of a little bit of a background about some of the thinking about how we're looking at this service model is, first of all, where are students with disabilities served? What kind of educational environments are our students in? Well, we certainly know that they're served in regular classes. So this part is intended to help show the special education kind of continuum. So we know that that we have students who receive their services outside of the regular class just for a little bit of time. And then we know that, along that continuum, there are students with disabilities that require more services for a greater part of their day. And so the little dollar signs are just intended for our various audience to understand how that cost kind of goes up. And I thought most people would have a reference for like the little Yelp signal at the restaurant level about how much dollars it would take. So that's kind of a little bit of a nod to that to help put it in perspective for people who are not educators. And so we also have the preschool part to look at as well. And so, investment of dollars into those programs. And then not only is it where services are provided, but how are they provided and how intense are those services. And so when we look here at the intensity of services, we look at some students may just need some general support. They may not be pulled outside of the general class very much. They may just need some minimal general skill support. Also for reference, this comes from our policies governing students, our services for children with disabilities. In the back of that, the class size, caseload policy. Underneath it talks about the intensity or the levels of support. So this is coming directly from that part of our policy. So then looking at targeted skills, where kids are not only requiring more time in special ed, but more intensive services. And of course, that goes up with sustained support. And once you start reaching sustained support, there might be multiple areas in need of specially designed instruction or related services. There could be some documented health, communication, sensory, or behavioral problems, and they may or may not need various levels of supervision or adult support in those settings, or to be able to participate in other settings. And then the same would be true scaling up for students who require intensive support. And then just looking at who are providing services. And I'll drop back just for a moment because based on your backgrounds at the council, some of this may not be surprising to you. You may have a great deal of familiarity with this. But this PowerPoint is something that I've used with various audiences who know not much about special education, and it will probably be something that we use with the legislature, who doesn't have a wide range. So thanks for indulging me for kind of building us up, because you're almost a beta test too for audiences who may not be fluent in education speak. So in trying to look at educational personnel, this is just estimated base salary and benefits, and the range includes potential contracted costs. And the reason I put that at the bottom is the contracted cost significantly increase the cost of services. because that's not just salary and benefits, it's the cost of doing business with another entity to provide that service. And so I don't want folks to feel, the first disclaimer is $75,000 is a lot right up there for EC teachers, and that's not necessarily the common, and we wanted to be careful about people making perceptions about how well folks are paid. But this is if, for example, that includes their benefits. That's not just salary, and so that's why that's on the slide. And related service providers, nursing, psychologists, teacher assistants. And for example, one student could require services from all of those individuals. And so we wanted to have that there for some perspective taking about the cost of our unique service providers. And so what does it look like? And so with all of those variables, pulled together, as you go, to more intensive services, of course, the expense goes up, and that should be fairly obvious no matter your background by the time we get to this slide. And so in case it weren't, I just wanted to go there one more time. But think about it too. Most of our students fall in that middle area because that's the biggest range of service. It could be anywhere from 21% in a special ed setting to 100% in a special ed setting. Because remember, separate is a separate school, or residential, that's a contracted type of placement. And so there's a wide variation in that resource range right in there. Now, the reason why we use these categories is this is our federal reporting categories. I just shared with you the state performance plan and annual performance report. And one of the things that we get measured on is how much time children spend in special ed, and making sure that we are properly considering least restrictive environment. And so we use those same federal determinations in case we had to make an analysis or somebody asked us, where does that look like in our data as a state? And so one of the other things that I think is interesting and makes this as an important model is our students who fall under the regular area, they actually move a lot. They move around a lot. And it just makes, it's very complicated when children move in and out, and how we leverage the dollars that they bring to support an entire program. And so we want to make sure that that our students have funding streams to support all of those unique needs. So without getting into the math, because I'm not the mathematician, and I usually present this with our Senior Director for Financial Services here at DPI, and she'll go into a little bit more when we have finance officers here. But essentially, we're looking at these types of combination of variables across the state per public school unit to make sure that students are funded appropriately. Now, common questions that we get are, is there kind of a base to hold harmless if your combination of students and the formula doesn't necessarily add up to make enough for your students? And without getting into the complicated matrix of that, yes, there are several things that are baked into the formula to make sure that at least some minimums for doing business for exceptional children have been thought out and thought through. And so I bring this to your attention because we are anticipating being asked to share this with the state board again in December, and maybe in the spring, January, February, share this again with the legislature. And so what we've done this summer is we've shared this presentation with our finance officers. Last Friday, I had the opportunity to share this with our Sandhills superintendents, and they're going to be talking about it with their finance officers and EC directors. We're going to have a few folks kind of troubleshoot it for us and give us some feedback, so when we do get called up in December and January, we'll have some more feedback about it. In our conference in October during the director's webinar, I'll be sharing more details, and we'll be, our Directors Institute at Fall Conference. I'll be sharing this with Jennifer Bennett, our financial office representative, and we'll actually look at some numbers with our EC leadership to get some feedback about this model. We're hopeful that this is going to be more appropriate as a funding model than what you may be familiar with as just the cap. You just get a percentage, and we hope that in that percentage that all the needs will be met. And I think that folks have been uncomfortable with that for a number of years. We got a little bit more on the cap in the last couple of years, but I'm thankful that the legislature also is concerned that it's just not quite right, and they've given us an opportunity and devoted some resources themselves to look at how we might make it better. And any thoughts or feedback from you all, I'm happy to receive as well. Yep.
So I think that this slide is great, but I think for people who don't understand what we're talking about, I think the service providers need to be delineated out maybe earlier.
Okay.
Because if you forget to say it or whatever, nobody knows what a service provider is unless you're in this room.
Sure.
So I think maybe that could be shared a little bit more specifically.
Okay, great. So one of the things that we get asked about is that, and I want to be very transparent about this, is that the ugly side of this, and I'll just say it straight out, is that we anticipate the question is, okay, what's to stop a district from proposing more restrictive services that students need so that they can be funded at a higher rate to support their special ed programs. And so what I am prepared to say, and why I also paired this with our SPP and APR, is that we are measured federally by how long our children spend in the least restrictive environment. But not only that, we do monitor our programs and services for children on a routine basis. There can be complaints filed about services if they're not appropriate. So there's a lot of different measures in the work that we do in the Office of Exceptional Children that are the checks and balances to assure that programming is done correctly. And those have been in place ever since the IDEA was operationalized. And so that's one of the pieces that I feel like I want to make sure that the council has at their fingertips, because I'm not sure if folks that you come in contact will have questions about this or they'll hear any buzz about this. So if you feel like this could be a step in the right direction, I want to make sure that you have enough talking points to feel like you can anticipate a question and be ready to answer it. Yes.
Can I add just
Yes, ma'am.
two little pieces to the point that was brought up? There might be some value to not only identifying what are related services providers, but I know I think in our FTEs we have to report the percentage that are contract and the percent that are employees, and maybe the significant difference in the average salary versus hourly cost of those folks, because the challenge that we experience in the district is we're competing most times with the medical profession, in which they're paid a significant amount more, and so it's probably a little surprising to a parent that like a speech language pathologist might cost us significantly more than a special ed teacher, because from your view as a very traditional mom, you're thinking this person is with my child most of the day, they have a lot of expertise, and the speech language provider is maybe minimal hours a week. So the difference there and the cost, which I think could put some emphasis on the idea of like salaries of our
Sure.
hardworking teachers and related service providers, and we are losing people to the medical professional. We are challenged with filling related service provider positions, and so that challenge is out there.
So one thing I'm thinking of, Christy, is the last time we met, I believe I went through with you guys the federal personnel survey report where we had the vacancies. I'm wondering about using that same chart and showing that where the vacancies are pushes us into contracting. And so that
And then the cost.
exponentially adds this much money
Yeah,
to
there was
the
actually like a
cost.
visual slide, and I'm kind of thinking that could be beneficial for folks that
Sure.
that can influence the state budget, which can influence teacher salaries. And there was also one slide in there about like the average years of experience. And one of the things that I know comes up is like the average years of experience from my memory. It caps off at, let's say, approximately 15 years experience, and please don't quote that. But one of the challenges is the minute a teacher is hit that max, there's not a financial incentive to continue the position. And so where our attrition happens in the field can sometimes be that magic number of the great years of experience, like 15, where we can utilize those people as teacher leaders and all those awesome things. And so our experience comes from 0 to 3 teachers, and they need a lot more support. So from my perspective, we have an opportunity to sort of advocate for supporting those experienced teachers in the field. Sorry.
No, I think that's great.
No, I was just gonna say, to piggyback off that, I mean, I agree, I was a previous teacher and I don't work in the education field anymore, I do, but a separate setting. We have 4 educators that work at ECAC that have walked away in the past year, and all are at that cusp. And so it's that retention, and I would advocate for all my friends that are educators to, go and advocate. We're losing educators. I was joking earlier.
Yeah.
I know someone that's been an educator for 15 years, works at PF Chang's as a bartender on the weekends, makes more than just love teaching.
Yeah, I also think, and I agree, I think that, the teachers that have been working for a while, they feel that they're punished now because of their years that they have in, and then but yet you still have your new ones that are coming out, and they need the support. They need the support, they need the professional development, they need all of these different things, they need all the support that they can get. So I think it's just a hard thing, but I will, one question I have, I know that you said you had the slides from the previous meeting. I don't remember, was there like percentages actually on there on those slides? My question as far as breaking it down, like you're saying, and then like vacancies and when we're talking that kind of thing, like how it doesn't really have to be a percentage, but it's like what is the amount of turnover in those vacancies? What's the time that we're seeing? Are we seeing a trend of how long in that vacancy, that one person stays before it's turning over again? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I didn't have that time element in there, and I'm not sure if our report can capture that level of detail. There might be another office, licensure, for example, that might have some of those data. I'm not sure that I would have it that detailed in our federal personnel report. But I do think that there is some good strategy baked into looking at the trends of our vacancies, just from 21-22 to 22-23, and we'll soon have in October that data collection again. And so I'm happy to include that when I'm in front of different audiences.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the feedback here. Yep.
I'm sorry. Is there any value, and I don't know if you have the numbers for this, but to show how many public separates there are versus how many maybe there's identified as there needs to be more of those. My son goes to a public separate school. I'm a public separate junkie, it's fine. But I didn't know if there's any value in adding, if you have the data to suggest that, students need more of that setting, even though it costs more, they need more. So I'm just wondering if that's an option.
Yeah, I need to think about that, because there's just a few public separate statewide, but where I think I might need to probe that a little bit further is how many districts are tapping into our funds for excessive cost and contracted placements that they're having to contract for other things, because those are getting into so what is populating our separate part of that continuum? What does that look like for the state and where the dollars are there? That might be an opportunity to see what is available to make that feel a little bit closer to home with some examples. That's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
Carol Ann, can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a couple things. Number one, our HR and licensure department does submit the report to DPI, and it's been interesting to see. We have teachers that'll get to that 3-year mark, which is if they're coming in with an alternative license or one of the lateral entry pathways, that by that 3rd year, typically they have to have met certain requirements, and then especially at the time where they have to take the testing requirements that align with the licensure, a lot of our teachers are still struggling with the licensure requirements when they're coming in. And so we do see kind of that 3-year mark where teachers may stay for 3 years and then drop off because of a licensure requirement. The other piece of this is that also really honing in on the fact that we've got professionals with medical licenses that are still on a classified scale and considered classified staff at the state level, which is just, in my opinion, not appropriate at all. And so I do think having some advocacy to push for the pay scales that districts have to kind of go by, so we won't have any audit exceptions, especially for that classified staff. The third thing is I'm kind of concerned about what once may not have been such a change, like when we with some changes that we're hearing with Governor Moorhead and School for the Deaf, we're having some kids being returned to us that are going to cost us an awful lot more money because of supports that we're having to put in place with Braille list and interpreters and just a lot of different a lot of heavier expenses that we would have because they're not getting into the schools like they once did. So, and I know that's a process, and a process that I'm not sure with recent legislation if it will get any easier or not. Just my opinion.
Thanks, Christy.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. For the separate setting, does the extended content standards class go in that separate?
No, that separate category is for residential, separate schools, hospital, those unique situations. For students who are participating on the extended content standards, they are actually spending more time in special ed, so they're actually part of that resource continuum for the federal reporting purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my clarification. And I would say that that's the area, I'm from Public Schools Robeson County, that's the area we see the most turnover in. And especially at my school, staff. I am the resource teacher, but again, this year, I'm everyone's teacher because we lost our teacher again. It's almost every year that person leaves. And they say it's not due to the support in the school, it's just the overall stress and requirements of it. And it's been difficult to keep that filled. And I'm a 26-year teacher, so I'm at that level where I'm looking at, I admit, I'm looking at, I'm maxing out. So, how much longer do I want to do this? How much longer do I not? But I love what I do, so that's why I'm in there. But I just wish we could find more consistency, because those are the kids that need the consistency. Yes. So, I understand the resource does too, but they have their general ed teacher, that could be consistent. But with our extended content standards, it's different.
Yeah, one of the things that's really kind of challenging too is thinking about the workforce that we have is spread out across so many PSUs now. And that's what is a little bit of a challenge. I looked at our number of students with disabilities just before COVID and more recently. I haven't gone back a lot, but it's kind of on my list. But we are about at 203,000 students with disabilities across the state. And what I'm interested in going back 203,000. One of the things I'm interested in going and looking back at is every year as we increase our numbers in PSUs, what did that do? Because, one PSU with one student with disabilities requires one teacher. And we have now 364 public school units. And so I'm just interested if we're feeling, if our actual, rate of growing teachers and losing teachers is the same, it just feels more magnified because we're trying to stretch them out across so many public school units. So I don't have the data for that, but I'm kind of interested in that. Not that that necessarily is going to be a talking point, except you never know when it might be something that somebody's interested in, or ask the question, why do we think that this is getting harder? But we're all stretching out, and we're all competing for a finite set of resources. And I know our directors routinely have to apologize to each other for recruiting from each other, over the summers and so forth, because everybody's looking for teachers and providers. Anybody else have any questions for me? Sorry, I probably took a lot longer than you had budgeted for me on your agenda.
You're fine. We had room. I do just want, just thinking of making the point of, how important doing something like this shift of the fund is. Have thought about pulling in state complaint and how much that is also a cost within this too, because of services not being met. Because sometimes school systems, the public units don't have enough funding to really truly meet what they need to currently with the caps. So even thinking there's some component to that would play into the numbers too.
That's a possibility. I think it may be hard depending on which audience you're in front of.
Right.
I don't know. We've definitely experienced an increase in state complaints over the last couple of years, and for a variety of reasons. Obviously, implementation is the top issue, and that could be for a variety of reasons. It's not necessarily attributed every time to a lack of teacher. Sometimes it's due to a lack of evidence to support that specially designed instruction was implemented. And so there's a variety of variables that factor in sometimes while there's an implementation violation. Lee, did you want to add anything to that?
I was just trying to think of, we do have somewhere we separated out where it's about a qualified teacher, but those are not as frequent as the ones around implementation. Sometimes they go hand in hand, but I don't know if that would support necessarily a change in structure of funding. It may support that we need to increase salaries, to keep teachers. I think we'd have to look into it, just to look at the data.
It would be good because, in my role and what I do, I get phone calls all the time, and we are tracking if the teachers are just a long-term substitute and things like that.
Oh yeah, we do that in the state complaint.
And just looking at the compensatory services and the amount of money that school districts are paying out at this point in time because they're hiring that outside party to do it because they don't have anyone. I don't know. I think it would be about.
Do y'all have that data?
We have a lot of data.
Okay. Maybe we could use that as well.
All right, I'm going to check. Diane, any other questions from you or our friends online before I put the agenda back up on the screen?
I have not seen anything on chat, and I'm good on questions now, so I think we're good. Yep, so it's So yeah, if you want to just put the agenda back on, I guess, for this moment, is that it for your presentation, or have you got?
No, that's all for mine. I'm just navigating through lots of open windows, so just one second.
Yeah, you're fine. No, you were fine. Because actually the next thing is us discussing. So I guess as council, what we have said is each time we have presenters like this, and of course the updates are part of that, is having discussion time for the new people on board. What we're trying to do is intentionally have a open discussion behind any presentation pieces like this, and then is there any recommendations or actions that we as a council want to make sure we get down, so that when we are building our recommendation to the state board that we do once a year, that we have that sort of built in naturally within our conversation. So I will open the floor at this point. Is there any more discussion beyond what we've already been doing that we want to, or is there any recommendations, actions we want to put in for what we have heard from Carol Ann this morning? Okay. I'm hearing nothing and seeing nothing. I'm going to take it that that we are good. We do have a comment from Lisa. She appreciates all that's being done, and I second that. I think and you had a lot to update, but that is a good thing because you had a lot you're doing and going on and working towards. I think that's huge, and I think it's important for us to know it so we can spread that out across the state too, what is going on, and to help support the work that way. So with no recommendations, no other things at this point on that, we'll move on to the next part of our agenda, which is our new year. This officially is our first meeting. July starts our new year, so it's the first meeting we've had since our new year starting. So we do have new members that we want to welcome. We've already, of course, had some of them introduced during the introduction time, but we have Opal Blair, who is a parent, Peyton Davis, who's a parent, and then Pamela Day from LEA. That's those new members. Then we also have reappointments. And I apologize for my voice. Sorry, I'm fighting a cold too, like several of us, I think Scott said. So anyway, legislative reappointments is Senator Ted Alexander, and which of course Senator Elizabeth, and I'll probably butcher this last name, for parents. So again, Representative Larry Strickland, and then Chris Wall as a parent. We do still have a vacancy around the general education administrator. So if anybody knows of anything, we definitely need to work on filling that vacancy. And then we'll go on to a little bit of business in that attendance, record attendance, and participation of the council member is expected. When a member is appointed by the State Board of Education, misses 2 consecutive regular meetings, then the council chair, being me, or as we move forward, whoever that would be next year, will contact the member to inquire about his or her interest to remain on the council. When they are served by the legislative side and voted in, then that is handled a little differently. But again, like number of regular meetings, they don't need to miss. And then we'll request that if they are not going to do it, to work at getting somebody to fill that spot. So.
And Diane, we had a typo there.
It looks like one.
Dr.
So,
Watkins
and
is our,
then.
I'm sorry. Dr. Watkins is our LEA representative. We had a typo in the agenda. Sorry, Dr. Watkins.
Yeah,
but welcome.
I was realizing I was typing over it, but I couldn't remember what was there. Sorry. And I was trying to remember. So yes, thank you.
That's okay. Thank y'all.
Yeah. And then, of course, as we were talking about to begin with, for new members, quorum is at least 13 council members, and that cannot include the staff. That has to be actual council members. We had talked at one point, some throughout the suggestion, because we end up a lot of times in the June meeting not having a quorum, but I think I would lean towards us not changing it because it is consistently the same time of the month and the quarterly each quarter. So I think it would be hard to change that, just that June one, and keep consistency. So I think, unless somebody's got a different thought on that, I think we probably will stay with the dates that we have had continually on that. Has anybody got any other thoughts around that?
Diane, I know we've talked a good bit about the whole moving it forward, moving it back 1 month here or there. And
yeah.
I know we have a large percentage of folks on our council that May would be a very challenging month to move it backwards. And then I fear going into July and August, when we have to get things prepared for the state board meeting to do our annual report. I think moving back a month into August would cause us even further challenges. So I think it's just our responsibility to do a great job of communicating ahead of time what that June date is, and keeping available the remote option.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think we're really just trying to change it. It's going to cause probably problems than trying to keep it the same, to be honest. So I guess the request would be, is if at all possible, even if it's virtual, try to, which, I mean, this month's meeting is the only time we try to do in person right now. We are pretty much doing virtual the rest of the time. But yeah, we're always, no matter what, going to keep virtual option available going forward, because it does allow us to make sure we will have quorum to be able to do voting on anything we need to vote on. And so the next piece that we have is about the officers, and so that is normally we have a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and then both are on 2-year terms and are limited to 1 term each. So that would be whoever we're going to get rid, or just talk about the vice chair position is empty right now. So whoever would be voted in as vice chair or this time could serve 2 terms as vice chair, could technically be moved up to chair and the next voting time around. So they could end up being chair for 2 years too, but you couldn't flip back and go do another term on the vice chair once you've done that. So that's sort of, it's 1 term per each position if you end up in both. Not necessarily that you will, but if you did. So that brings us to the next order of business. Is we do need to vote for a vice chair. And so one comment we wanted to make before we open that up was that Christy has already served as vice chair, so she would not be up or being nominated for that. So I think, if I remember right from Alexis had set us up a Google Doc that we're going to use. Yes, I thought so. So what we're going to do is start with doing nomination, and then you will need to submit your nomination. Then we'll go back in and then do the actual vote, so that we're not trying to do both at the same time. You can nominate yourself. It doesn't have to be somebody else nominating you. So we'll open, let's see, so if you're in the document, you can click that and go on into that, or we may need to put it in chat. Is anybody not able to get to it from the agenda online? And how are we going to do the ones in the room since we're doing this way?
Can we just say it out
Okay.
loud?
Yeah.
Can everyone hear
Okay.
me? I apologize. Everyone should be able to link to the voting Google form through the agenda. You will choose your nominee first
sorry, we don't, a few of us don't have the agenda. I never received an agenda.
I'll email it to you. Are you on the internet?
I am, but I need to update.
And I'm
my
gonna put it
email
in
address.
chat here. I'll put it in the chat, the doc, so everybody will have it. So there's the actual doc for what you're seeing up on the screen. Okay, I just got it in chat so everybody would have that. But yeah.
Is everyone else okay with the link?
This is Erin. I still need the agenda link as well.
Okay, let me get that for you. Okay, so how are you handling in the room? Is everybody just gonna give the names, or that they want to nominate, or how we handle that? Because we've got somebody that is not able to do Google on their work computer, so we may have to go ahead and add names that way too. So Kenya, if you want to nominate somebody or yourself, if you want to just type it in the chat, I can get them to add it from there.
I think we about have everyone with an actual link, and I'm getting something to Abby right now, and then I think everybody's
Okay.
on a virtual link.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I just got it. Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome. I'm sending you the agenda now.
Okay, great.
Diane, do you have the backside of the form? Did Alexis share that with you?
No. I took the assumption that she did with maybe Polly or one of them, but
Polly, you have it?
I have it.
Okay.
I have 9
Okay.
responses so far.
Awesome. So, I'm getting there. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm a little slow here. Sorry. Do you know what? I can just share, I can just send you an email to include that link.
I have it too.
Would you like that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, and then I'm just gonna copy this link and it's
So I can display.
Is it right here?
At gmail.com.
Okay. I'm gonna just send you the direct link. It's just before. Is this where it's at?
It's a good
Perfect, you came right up. Maybe I'm sorry, I can just tell me that she does and Amy does. Okay, I just sent it to you, make sure you get it. Vice chair.
okay, it looks like right now on the who we nominate question, only 9 responses I was able to get into it, so
I can display that, Diane.
okay, thank you.
Oh, thank
Okay, and so Amy had already said that she would be willing to be if she was nominated, so we can definitely vote for her. Matt, are you willing to be the vice chair if you were voted in? So are you willing to go forward and have your name be part of the vote?
I mean, I would not outright refuse, I suppose. And I appreciate the fact that people wanted to nominate me, but I was not expecting that. So yeah, I'll allow myself to be voted for. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. And so Abby, the same question for you. Are you willing to allow to go through with your name on the vote?
For chair? For vice chair?
Vice.
Vice chair.
Vice.
I'm totally getting this to Amy Combs.
I think
I'm
she's
sorry, I'm-
expressing her
It's fine.
support of
It's
Amy.
It's fine.
Willing
It's
to.
fine. It looks great as far as the percentages go, so I'll be okay with it.
Okay. And Kristen Hodge, this is the same question to you. Are you willing to give your name as a consideration to vote for?
Good morning. Yes, thank you. I did arrive a bit late because I was in a 504 meeting, so I apologize for that. Thank you.
Well, you're
yes,
just in time to get nominated.
Yes, well timed. Yes, I would be willing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And then Kelly, the same question to you.
I don't recall seeing her being present.
I was going to say, is she even actually here? But I mean, you didn't have to be here to be nominated, but we would have to know that she wanted the position. So
Caroline, is it possible to go to the screen so I can see the names, not the, like the.
These are just all the names of the council members. The pie chart shows where the nominations fell.
Is there a way to show those names so I can just put them in the notes? Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
oh yeah, or do you?
Like the,
You could toggle over like
Yeah.
percent. So just
Yeah. Matthew. Okay, I got Matthew. I got Abby. I got.
And it was Kristen Hodges
Thanks.
and then Kelly,
And Amy Combs. Got it, thank you.
and then Amy. Yep. I'm gonna leave. We probably need to take Kelly off just for the fact we don't have her here to say that she would take the position, and had not previously heard from her that would be she would be willing to. Amy, we knew she wasn't going to be here, so we asked her if we were able to ask her, but
And I'm Amy's voice today, and she said she would.
yes, yeah, Amy has very much been said she was willing. So, but Kelly is the one I'm concerned about since we have not asked her. So, is there a way? I guess Holly, how is this going to go forward with who we vote for? With just the name that we've talked to here is
So the next question,
showing up?
so the next question has the list of people, and you just select from the 3 who are willing to serve for casting your vote on the next question.
Okay. So you'll either choose Amy, Matt, Abby, or Kristen. So that's the 4 you would choose from for the next question.
Caroline, you're the, if you wanna flip to the notes, I have their names listed on
Okay.
that, if that works.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So now you'll go back into the form for the vice chair, and you'll vote for one of those. Other than Kelly, because we won't do, since she's not here, I don't think it'd be fair to put her in that position. We voted you in, but yeah, so we'd be doing Amy will be who you'll vote for now. So those will be, one of those four will be the new vice chair. So if everybody can go back in and keep their responses to that part of the questions.
Amy?
Yeah, it's AIMEE.
Oh, sorry. I knew it was interesting. My bad. That's my fault. And one comment to just point out, Diane, for those 4 individuals, we do meet every, what is it, Monday at 2 o'clock kind of thing, and I'm sure that's really super flexible.
Yeah.
Every other, to prepare the agendas in advance. And we typically have done that Zoom.
Yeah. And we do that.
I'm sure that.
We usually won't meet, like normally it'd be this next Monday, so we normally that time because it's so quick after this meeting, but then we'll meet the rest of the months to
Kind of like a
set up for the
45-minute
meeting.
commitment,
Yeah.
but via Zoom.
Okay, it looks like everybody pretty much has put their answers in. And so our new is Amy. So Amy Combs will be our new vice chair. So she'll serve a 2-year term. Starting the next meeting, and she has been, because being part of the unmet needs, has been part of that group that comes together to set the agenda anyway. It's not going to change for her in that. She'll still just be part of that. So yeah, so we will definitely have Amy on board as the vice chair now. And so back to our agenda and see what we have next on our agenda. I say, I know where we at on our timetable here. Yeah, we've actually caught up a little bit, so that helps. So I am going to suggest, even though we lunch here in a little bit, is I'm sure probably the ones in the room can use a break, so a 1-minute break. Everybody have a second or two, and then we'll come back in and get to the next section, if that works with everybody.
Diane, you went out for just a second. How many minute break did you say?
Oh, just 5-minute break. Just the time to let you guys a little bit, because I'm sure the ones on our end have been able to come and go as we need to, but you guys have had to be in the room, so we'll take 5 minutes. So we'll come back. Yeah, just a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh. It is, thank you. I'm going to speak to see if any of my colleagues are next door.
Yes. It can take forever.
I cannot believe how big your son is.
I know, he's a giant. And
I was
he's
like-
in high school now.
And I was like, what in the world? I swear he was like just a teeny tiny.
I know. I was looking at those pictures and I was like, I can't handle this. What is it?
Oh my gosh.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do I need to sign in with her? Is that what we're doing? Do I need to sign in?
Yes, I told him what you are. And they called for it.
First days of leadership training. It's always the first day. It's usually one. It's just as first day. It's really the summer. Thank you. Wow. That is heavy. She's no joke. Well, there you go.
I can text her and just let her know we have a public comment though. In person, because that's a little different thing. Let me just message her, Diane. Share a quick note.
You told her and let her know.
No, is everybody mostly back?
Diane?
Huh? Yes, I'm.
It's Christy. I was about to send you a quick email, but I was hoping to be your eyes in the room for a second. We do have 2 public comments that are already signed in before the 12:30. And I know on
Okay.
our agenda, we have them slotted for 1 o'clock. And our bylaws say they just have to be signed in by 12:30. We had on the agenda 12:30 lunch, and to avoid these young ladies having to wait till 1 o'clock, I didn't know if anybody would be okay with moving them up till 12:30 and then doing our lunch after, so they don't have to go through the painful process of sitting here waiting for us to eat for 30 minutes before we could get them in. And I know the bylaws say they just have to be signed in by 12:30. If there's any others, I'm sure we wouldn't mind adding them. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm with that. I think as long as everybody else is fine, because I've got a feeling we're going to run to the point, probably we're going to be done pretty quickly anyway on that time frame, so it may be just as easy to finish and then you all eat, the ones that are in the room, and and finish day that way, but we'll play it out and see, but I'm fine. Do we want to do them before we go over the council orientation? Or do we want, I guess that's the biggest question, is which time do we want to let them go on now and then finish with our orientation piece? Or do we want to have them sit through the orientation piece and then do their, so I'm fine either way. So I'll let that be back to everybody to decide.
Hey Diane, this is Lee. It says though on the agenda, I think, was it put out that you had to be signed up by 12:30? So you have to wait till 12:30. You have to wait. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to wait till 12:30. Somebody else does come in, but we have let them go before 12:30, do the ones that have signed in. We would just have to, if anybody else signs in between now and 12:30, we would definitely have to let them have opportunity too.
And Diane, they are prepared and able to go before 12:30 if we get there.
Okay. So I'm gathering then from that we're going to go ahead and go with the council orientation next, as the agenda is. Okay. Good. And sorry, so we get. Yeah. Okay. So we are just going to go over the council expectations. It's just a little bit of orientation to begin the year out. We sometimes have trainers in for some of this, but we just this year are just going to go over a little bit. Christy, I may end up, if my voice comes and goes, I may end up needing to get you to read some of it, just so I'm not coughing all the way through it. But so if you go on to the next slide. Christy, I'm going to let you.
Yes, ma'am. Toggle back real quick.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's fine. I just want to pull up it on my screen, so I'm not reading it from the screen up there.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you want me to just sort of read through this?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just read these since it is the actual functions of the
Our primary objectives. Sure. So our primary objectives as the council to the State Board of Education on exceptional children is to advise the state board in areas of children with disabilities. And so that encompasses all children with disabilities, not students in North Carolina necessarily, but all children with disabilities. We always have to have the public comment time. That can be through a written or in person. The chairperson or the council, we then compile that for the State Board of Education. Any of our findings summarized from the whole year, and we typically do that annual report in the fall. We review the state board's policies to see if there's any updates that need to be made or recommendations. Any review of current information from the state board, we would then also take that information the opposite way. If there's any changes that need to head to our Department of Public Instruction from the state board, one of our roles is to review current information from the state DPI in developing and implementing policies related to the services for students with disability and carry out any other responsibility given to us by the State Board of Education. I think it's also important to note that this is in policy that this council exists and does meet a certain amount of time. It's a requirement. The council meetings we typically hold on the second Wednesday, September, March, and June. We offer them both in person and virtual. We've done that for quite some time, probably will continue to do that. They are open meetings and open to the public. Our executive committee meets, and that's actually, we meet more frequently to develop the agenda in plenty of time in advance. And our agenda is published on the website at least 1 week in advance, and actually it's pretty far in advance of that. Quorum is needed for all voting activities, and our executive committee consists of typically the chair and the vice chair and our council liaison, who has abandoned us. So we've got some steady replacements right now, but hopefully to get that position filled, we meet to set the agenda, ensure that we have orientation of new members, and then review any requirements for the state board report that we do each fall. And that's a summary of our actions from the prior 3 meetings or the year. Each council member has the opportunity in our quarterly meetings to provide feedback, and our committees have been, one of the committees has been unmet needs that we see in the state for students specifically with disabilities, providing feedback on any rules and regulations that the state agency, be it DPI, Exceptional Children Division, provides to us, and advise Department of Public Instruction and our Exceptional Children Division any policies related to coordinating services, and then obviously the systemic improvement plan, so our statewide, as Carol Ann referred to either earlier, the there's 6 letters, hold on, it'll come to me, APPR, SPP-APR. So, whoop, that's a mouthful. And when we, our resources, so this is just our way of doing business. We have a Google Drive you all should be shared on. It's broken into pretty organized folders with our annual reports, our agendas, our summary of actions, our meeting minutes, voting actions, and then obviously our website, which our liaison typically keeps updated for us, puts up our meeting minutes, our annual report, and then our approved minutes, as well as any summary of public comments. Our educational regions, those are obviously had been revised several years ago, and we attempt in our membership to get an ample sampling from each of those regions in our membership, as well as we try to reflect our membership in the breakdown of our state, both our ethnicity and gender and area. That's always our effort, while fulfilling the obligated roles. And I don't think that we have those delineated out here, but it is on our membership which role we serve, be it a parent, state agency, state appointed from legislative, and so on. And then our liaisons that support us. Currently, we've got some fill-ins as they work to fulfill Alexis's role, but Danielle has always been there for us to support our council. Polly is stepping in, and I don't think Teresa's not. Yeah, it's a so Lee is here in support of that, and I'm sure they are all voting for Alexis's replacement, so that we can get that person full-time back. I think one thing I threw in an editorial comment that's really helpful is we have a number of members on our team, but it tends to be the 3 or 4 of us working on the Mondays to set the agenda, and it's really helpful if those stakeholders provide us feedback as it comes about, so that when we're setting the agendas, we're able to incorporate proactively any concerns around the state. I know we have stakeholders that are advocates and work out in the ECAC world, they work in the insurance world, they work in the private school world. I know we've got Lisa out there working in the homeless education population. We've got folks from DJJ, and we're just blessed to have a wealth of stakeholders with various perspectives. And so if I put a shameless plug out there, it would be when you observe concerns or see trends, it's really helpful to just shoot us an email and say, hey, this is something that we could be better educated on, or this is a trend we're seeing in the world that we work every day. Is there something we could proactively put in our agenda to ensure that we keep the council updated on topics? Because we only have 3 minds working out there, and so if we get the wealth of the group and when we're setting the agenda, that's really helpful. So.
Yes, I will second that plug. In fact, I was going to do that when you finished, so you beat me to it. As please, and you can send that to me as the council chair, you can send those directly to my email. And if you should have my email in the links, I can get it added to the agenda today. I can add the email in a minute when I'm not talking, and I can do it because I can't dual tap that good. But anyway, I will put my email there. But it's so for sure, if there is topics, please let us know. Of course, Amy will be part of that group, so she will be coming from ECAC. I come from, working with the parents too, so both of us are coming from that similar perspective of we're bringing it from what the parents bring us is concerned. So we do need a more well-rounded piece around that. So from the entities that are part of this council, it'd be great to hear if there's particular concerns or particular topics that you want trained on. Please reach out to us so that we can add those to the agenda as we move through the year throughout the year. So any discussion? I know we threw a lot of just things at you right there in this. It was just a quick overview. It definitely is not the end all be all about what the council is, but it's just a good overview for what we are and what we do. So is there any discussion or question or thoughts from what we just Christy read for us now?
Diane, it might be helpful to sort of navigate the drive for just one quick second so folks know where they're looking. In the main drive that's called Council Information, the folder that's called Welcome Information is helpful in some of that generic foundational information. It also delineates out the role we play on the council and our bylaws if you ever need to reference that. It's also got some great practical information like visitor parking and navigating yourself to State Head building if you're new to us. And then also pretty helpful, the agendas and our past meeting minutes and the summary of actions. Those are sort of compiled in a pretty organized way. And we do keep a history of our public comments on there as well. So all that's pretty helpful. And if there's a written in public comment submitted prior to the meeting, it's typically held in that folder. So that's a great little resource for folks.
Also, can I just share an update? Diane, I've submitted the report for the council to be presented to the state board in October. And so we anticipate that we'll have that opportunity. I just need to ask if you're planning on coming in person to present the report.
I am. I would have been there in person today if it hadn't been for a situation with my son. But yeah, I plan to be there. And Christy has graciously said that if something did come up, she would substitute for me. So one of us will be there in person.
Okay, and very good. And for the other council members, in case you're not familiar with it, the state board is streamed live and the agenda goes up a week ahead of time. And so you can listen in to the entire thing or that portion of the agenda if you like. It's on our North Carolina NCDPI website at the top ribbon. You can navigate to the state board and they'll take a link there.
I don't know if I am dreaming this, but I thought we were somewhere around like the third or fourth item, so kind of earlier on in the day, or is that subject to change?
We generally try to have this committee is one of the first committees. However, the committee planning meeting is Monday, so I will know after Monday a better time frame. But generally, it's early on, so that means for you all between 9 and 10 usually. If it's super booked, it could be a little bit after 10, but 9 to 10 on that day is generally a good rule of thumb.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
Diane, in looking at our membership, do we have all of the roles filled as far as, I know we lost our higher ed agency person and our regular ed administrator person. Did we fill those?
To what I understand, the only vacancy is the general education administrator right now.
Anthony's spot. Okay.
Yeah, that is my understanding. I have not personally looked back at it, to be honest.
So is that something
And
that
then
Caroline, we could put in
with the one that's come up with the roll call about Adam Johnson, is that one we may need to see, is that automatically whoever takes his position takes that slot? Or is that one that has to go through process? Caroline, I'm not sure about that being a DJJ one.
Yeah, can I review the bylaws and get back to you, Diane, or have staff
Yeah.
follow up with you?
Yeah.
I'm a little out
Okay,
of
'cause
practice
that may
with
be
those
one we have.
particulars.
Yeah, please, because I'm not sure what the bylaws are on that one either with, and yeah, that position, I'm not sure how that'll play out. So, yeah, as soon as we know, then we'll work on that. But the gen ed administrator is the only one I know I'll be on that position that is vacant right now.
And is it, we can talk offline, is it possible to put that in the newsletter?
We can certainly put it in the newsletter. Chrissy has made a request. We have a weekly communication to our directors, so we could advertise that we're looking for a representative. If you all have different communication loops as well, and have the opportunity to contact general educators for a general ed representative, that's also another way they can express their interest by sending a letter to the state board office.
And I don't mind looking at our current membership, because I think we have regions attached to us, but just to ensure that we've got healthy representation across all the regions. I feel like sometimes we always sort of default to, the high populated areas in the Triad region and the Charlotte region, and sometimes we don't always get our mountain and our beach folks. So maybe I can take a look at that.
Yeah, part of that is those individuals willing to volunteer, and so for those of you that have contacts out in those areas, if you can help recruit membership, that would be fantastic.
Do we have anybody out of New Hanover County?
We don't always get every county covered because, of course,
Well, that would be a big county with a big area.
We used to have Jamie, who was in Hyde County, from my memory. But
we could reach out to their district. I mean, they would be a good one because
There's-
they're a very big school district and they're in that area that we could use.
And there should be, and I'm not sure if it's on the website or if it's in our drive, but there should be a list of the committee members, council members, and it should give where we're from. I'm almost positive there's a list to that effect somewhere, but I'm not sure where we've got it at currently. Try to look at the.
this might be one of the first tasks our new liaison has to tackle.
Yeah, we're testing ourselves big time because we're used to her always being able just to pull that really quickly. Let's see, maybe under annual reports, I might pull that. Hold on a second.
I see it under subcommittees.
It may be, yeah, it may be that, maybe where it's at, because
That has like everybody's name and like
the question's going to be if it's been updated, but it should have been.
that I actually might have.
I think staff can get that to the executive committee meeting.
Yeah, 'cause there is a list somewhere it has where we're all from. So, and Lisa's got her hand up. So Lisa, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm wondering if we might be able to get some information out to our regional support teams that have been set up by Dr. Oates and Dr. Nixon with the department about what our needs are for the council. They're having these regional meetings. It's part of Operational Polaris, and so it does align with what the state is trying to do in getting our districts on board with our expectations and our plans across the state for educating our students. And I think this would be a great platform for us to share the need to have the whole state represented on the council, but also helping us to identify maybe other districts who may not be active or aware really of our council to come and join us, because we've been struggling with our attendance of members for several years now. And so I'm wondering if that could just be maybe an option for us to consider to provide them with some information to share at those meetings.
I think additionally, talking about regional support, talking about the larger counties, so I'm Wayne County, so I'm the east of the I-95 divide. For us, it's a rural versus urban issue. We hear that a lot from our legislators as well, but that's kind of something that's going away. The rural counties are not being represented. They're losing the representation rapidly. And so I think that's just another thing to consider. Because like New Hanover's needs would be very different from what like Wayne County or Nor and those areas need.
Are we good to move on, Diane?
Yeah, sorry, we're getting, I have a chance to see if anybody else had a comment, but I think we are. So it is, yeah, we're definitely running early at this point. So I guess the question comes back to, we've got another hour technically that one could sign up for public comment. But we already know there's some there, so we can go ahead and open the floor and allow those to have their time. Or we could, yeah, the other is take early lunch and come back. But I'll leave that to how everybody wants to do.
If you guys are comfortable, I think that we could probably go ahead and invite our in-person public comment and just leave it open until the 12:30 obligated time and go ahead and get these young ladies in. Is that okay with you?
It works for me. Okay. And Tamika, and you've put a couple questions in there. We're trying to follow those, but I'll try to get answered here in just a minute when I'm not leading to your one question. I think she's coming back. Okay, you want to know we're looking for us for a general education administrator is a position we have to fill, but what we're trying to make sure is that we try as we feel that if possible, and that is if possible if the people are willing to take it on, is looking about it also covering our state so that we're not all from one particular area of the state. So at this time, I couldn't tell you what area we would need. It's just we need a general education administrator is the biggest piece of that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Okay. So yes, so we're going to go to the public comment part section. Christy, I'm sorry. Did you say there's one or two people here today in person?
There's one public comment. There was just two individuals, and I assumed it to be two comments.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that because I thought I heard both, so I wanted to make sure of that. So anyway, our public comment at this time, we don't have any written letters or anything that come in written. So we're good there. But then in person, in general, we do not, as a council, respond to the public comment. So they can read it, speak, and we 5 minutes per person. And then, we can, after like another time, we have a conversation, but we do not respond to the actual public at the time that it's happening. So if we're good, we'll move on and let the person speak. Chrissy, I'm going to let you drive that a little bit since you're in the room and me not.
All right, thank you. My name is Virginia Sharpless, and I'm the co-founder of Literacy Moms NC. In OSEP's August 3rd, 2022 closeout letter to North Carolina, OSEP detailed that NCDPI must demonstrate that the revised policies and procedures ensure compliance in 3 areas: child find, FAPE, and the state's general supervisory and monitoring responsibilities. The state complaint campaign that Literacy Moms started in the fall of 2020 and the submission of the state complaint 20-043 resulted in statewide corrective actions. The heart of the complaint was about NCDPI's insufficient actions in supervisory and monitoring LEAs. With the success of complaint 20-043, we were hopeful that maybe NCDPI would hold LEAs accountable in regard to child find and FAPE. But as we filed more complaints against LEAs and the SEA, we saw complaints were dismissed without investigation. OSEP's differentiating monitoring report even referenced some of the dismissed complaints, namely complaint 20-082 and complaint 20-078, which raised specific allegations that were never investigated by NCDPI. In the fall of 2021, we brought back the state complaint campaign with a focus on child violations, and NCDPI again failed over and over again to supervise and monitor LEAs and themselves, the SEA. In the fall of 2022, we persisted, and Literacy Moms filed complaints again with a focus on child find and FAPE. But this time, DPI refused to investigate any complaints filed by Literacy Moms and claimed the complaints were insufficient. It is now the fall of 2023, and although we have no faith that the state complaint avenue is a valid pathway to advocate for child find and FAPE, Literacy Moms NC will persist and document DPI's reluctance to exercise the state's general supervisory authority and responsibilities under sections 612A1, 612A11, 616A1C of IDA. These are the fundamental guarantees that the state gives the federal government in their role of supervising IDEA. Disabled children across the state have the right to child find and FAPE, and DPI's failure is paid for by children who continue to suffer in a broken system. If any of you would like to see the complaints Literacy Moms has filed and the DPI reports, we would be happy to provide them to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we will need to keep open the room and the meeting until after 12:30 in case anybody else comes in, because that is our timeline. Unless there is anything else that anybody wants to bring up, comments, thoughts, whatever, we can go ahead and you guys can go to lunch a little early, and then we can, like the ones on Zoom, can, put yourself on mute, whatever, however you want to handle it, and come back at 12:30. We'll come back in at 12:30 and make sure there's nobody else that's come in for public comment, and then we can close the meeting at that time. We cannot officially close the meeting if we don't have a quorum back, so I would ask, please, that if you are online and need to go away for a little bit, that you do come back at 12:30 so we can make sure we have a full quorum to be able to close the meeting. But I'll also, like I said, just allow a little space if anybody has any other thoughts, comments that we need to get on the notes before we do go out to lunch real quick.
Real quick, if I do actually, as someone who is on Zoom, if I do actually temporarily close out of the meeting, if I click on the link that I did to get back in here, would that work, or would somebody need to let me back in when I do that?
I'll keep
You
that.
should be able,
Yeah.
man, there's not a wait room for this to just be able to come straight back in.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Diane, I probably did not do a great job of summarizing the in-person public comment, so I'm just gonna see if she can email that to me and I can sort of hot link it there, and then, because I know she has a written statement, so it'll be a better summary.
Yes, that would be great, because that way we'd have more Zach's, because it is hard to get all in on a comment like that, so it'd be great if we can get a copy of her. Yes. Okay, well, I am gonna say let's early lunch for you all there, and for everybody on Zoom, like I said, step away, put yourself on mute, turn your video off, or go out of the meeting and come back with way you prefer, but just everybody come back at 12:30. Thank you.
And I don't know what time the lunches are arriving. Oh, okay, so you think they're here? Okay, great, so I was gonna say, maybe just sit here.
Okay. Thank you.
I just wondered, I sort of saw you had written.
Hello, is everybody back?
We are still here, Diane, and I just turned our mics back on.
I saw you was doing that, so I think we are back. Is there anybody else signed up at this point?
No one in person. And I don't see any guests outside of membership logged into the WebEx.
No, yep, okay, no, it's all membership, yep. So I think we're good then. We close any other comments from anybody that needs to be put on records?
I just want to make sure that the council knows that our fall conference is coming up and we're sponsoring the registration. The registration link or the registration code is here in the agenda, if I'm not mistaken. If you have not registered, please do that by Friday because it closes. It's earlier this year so that we can make sure we have accommodations in place for those guests that need them. So if you have not registered, please do so.
Yes. And if I'm understanding correctly, it's Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday is actually the institutes. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And
Yeah, okay.
Educators of Excellence is Monday night.
Yeah, okay. Okay. In light of, if there's nothing else, and I need someone to move that we adjourn.
I second.
I didn't hear, but okay. Adjourn.
And to make it easier, I will say, is anybody opposed? So she can do those. Other than that, we'll accept, if we hear nothing, that everybody's in approval of us adjourning the meeting today. Okay, and hearing nothing and seeing no, I don't see anything on chat. I say we call it an end to the meeting. And everybody have a great weekend. The rest of your week, actually, for the weekend, but ooh, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Diane, are we off for Monday?
Yeah, unless you got
So
something we
Monday?
really need to discuss, we'll just catch back up the next, because I doubt Amy will be back, or to be honest.
Because I
So,
think Amy's not
yeah.
back from her daughter's wedding on Monday.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I don't think she'll be back. So yeah. So let's just put off.
Great.
And I guess Polly, will somebody set up a link for us again?
Yes.
Okay. And just yeah, we'll for now we'll stay at normal time on Mondays. What was it? 2, Christy? So we doing?
It was, but well, I guess Amy was.
We've
already
moved
meeting
around
with
so
us.
much. To be honest, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and depending on who takes over for Polly as our liaison, that might affect the times of
Right.
their availability.
What time is it at?
We've done Mondays at 2 in the past. Zoom and is about 30 minutes, but I'm sure when you hire somebody for that role, they might have a commitment or an obligation or a better day. And Alexis was pretty flexible. Like even if that was her day to work from home, she had pretty good service and stuff. So it was
I would say just stay as is.
As is.
And if we need to change it, we will.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you all.
This room for a second.
Thank you for tolerating me not being there too. I hated to miss, but
I hope all is well with your family.
it's got to get there eventually.
It certainly will. We'll
Yeah.
talk to you soon.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You already paid for it, you're like,